Growing up in Southern California in the 60s and 70s was amazing. It was kind of a golden age. People were moving there from all over the country. Businesses were growing, real estate prices were skyrocketing. My dad and his wife, Carol, were realtors and real estate investors, and they owned property around Southern California. I called these properties golden geese because they threw off income each month that our family could live on. In other words, there was more rent being collected than was owed on the mortgage each month. This allowed my dad to retire from real estate at age 48 and move to San Diego. Real estate provided a great lifestyle for our family. We got great vacations, Hawaii in the wintertime, Colorado River in the summertime, ate out a lot because my parents often worked into the evenings with their clients. We had a cabin up in Big Bear, which is about 90 minutes outside of Orange County, so we'd spend weekends up there as well. It was really a great lifestyle. Have wonderful memories of my childhood. My dad wanted my brother and I to succeed in life. He had to start reading Success magazine at age 10. So I learned about setting goals. I learned about helping other people. I learned about being able to think differently and see other points of view and respect other people's opinions. At age 18, my dad had me start managing some of his properties, which was a great education about real estate and people. I remember the day my dad came to me and said, "Well, Kev, I've made it." I said, "Dad, I don't know what that means." He said, "I've become a millionaire." In other words, he had all this real estate, 20 rental properties in California that were now worth $1 million in the late 70s. That really was a lot of money back then. Today, that would be equivalent to about $10 million in assets with today's value of these properties. I wish my family story had a better ending. My dad's wife, Carol, wasn't a fan of cleaning the rental properties when tenants would move out. So one by one, they sold off the real estate, in essence, killing the golden geese. At the end of my dad's life, he had dementia. One day he was out driving in his car, and he couldn't find his way back to his home. A police officer helped him, looked at the driver's license, and helped him get back home and told Carol that my dad could no longer drive a car because he was not, it wasn't safe for him to drive anymore. He was a risk to himself and to others. My dad ended up going into an assisted living facility that was run by the VA. And he had a roommate and diminished care, and it was very sad because, in essence, he died penniless. Watching Carol struggle and my dad die penniless, I decided that day I wanted to make a difference for seniors with their retirement. I wanted to change the story of fear and uncertainty to one of a retirement that's happily ever after. I wanted to help seniors not outlive their money. The number one fear that seniors have is outliving their money, and I want to alleviate that. Imagine if your spouse could stay at home, maintain their independence, and control where they live. Bill and Sharon were referred to me by a realtor. They were living in Arkansas and wanted to move back to Colorado Springs to be close to family. Bill wasn't in the best of health. He had to be on oxygen living at altitude. In fact, he confided in me that he wasn't long for the earth, and he wanted to be sure his wife was going to be okay when he passed on. They were looking for a house that suited them in this stage of life. In other words, maintenance-free, affordable, all the amenities, newer home, and close to family. They used a reverse mortgage to increase their purchasing power. So they put 60% down, didn't have to use all their cash, and they got a house that suited them in this stage of life. We closed in 30 days and they moved in and were very happy. They asked about the requirements that they had as homeowners with a reverse mortgage. I explained as long as they lived in the home 6 months or more a year as their primary residence, paid the property taxes, homeowners insurance, any HOA dues, and maintained the home, they could stay to age 150 of the youngest borrower. They were thrilled to hear this. 5 months later, I get a call from Sharon. "Hello, Kevin?" "Yes?" "This is Sharon." "Oh, hi, Sharon. I don't know if you remember me, but you helped us finance a home last Christmas, and my husband, Bill, just passed away." "Of course I remember you, Sharon. I'm so sorry to hear that. At the time, you told us that if this remained our primary residence for 6 months a year, we paid the property taxes and insurance and homeowners dues and maintained the home, we could stay here and not have a mortgage payment. Is that right?" I said, "Yes, that's true." Oh, good, because this is the only way I can afford to stay in my home with just one income. So Bill had really loved his wife and taken care of her. One last act of love, making sure she was going to be okay when he was no longer here. Most seniors I meet with have the same goal in mind. They want to age in place, maintain their independence. They don't want somebody telling them where they have to live, and they want to stay as an owner of their home, and they don't want a mortgage payment, which is their biggest expense in retirement on a fixed income. So what's the problem? Well, it's good news and bad news. The good news is people are healthy. They're living longer. The bad news is most people feel they haven't saved enough for retirement. They look at rising healthcare costs, inflation, possible tax increases, and the wild card of how long will I live? So it brings fear and anxiety. And by the way, you're not alone. A lot of people feel this. People I meet with every day. Boston College did a study recently, and they shared 2/3 of Americans do not have enough money to live in retirement. You and I face this challenge. And fear paralyzes us, so we don't act. Why is this important? Well, you have to live somewhere, and let's be honest, your kids aren't really excited about you moving in, and you don't really want to do it either. You've been there and done that. And if you end up living in a state-run facility, it will be a diminished facility with limited care and possibly or likely have a roommate. Why now? Well, when it comes to your money and your health, the best time to make a decision is yesterday or today, immediately. My promise to you in this short talk is to show you how you can optimize your home equity. So what are some important things to know about this program? Well, at least one of the homeowners, one of the borrowers needs to be 62 years or older. This financing program is available for primary residences only, and we've already stated the requirements of the borrower. One of the biggest advantages of a reverse mortgage is you shift responsibility of repayment of the loan from yourself to the home because it's a non-recourse loan. That's really important. That's one of the big benefits of this program. Carla was referred to me by her daughter, who was a client. She was 84 and 5'0", full of life and energy and sweet as pie. When I met her, I asked her about why she was wanting to explore a reverse mortgage. She lived in a duplex on the west side of town. The rent covered her mortgage payment. And I said, so help me understand, how could this help you? She said, well, to be honest, money's tight. I'm on a budget. And I said, yeah, I get that. A lot of people face that same issue. Tell me more. She said, well, I'm using my credit cards to buy groceries. At the closing table, I asked her how this was going to help her because we eliminated her monthly mortgage payment, paid off her credit cards, basically freed up about $1,000 a month. And she was only living on Social Security. It was very tight for her. She kissed me on the cheek and she said, well, now I don't have to worry about money and I can sleep at night. Here are some important things to know. In most cases, the fees for the loan are paid out of equity. In other words, people don't have to write a check to come to closing. What are the fees? Approximately 2% of the value of the home are lender fees, title insurance, closing fee, credit report, tax cert, flood cert, etc. And about 2% is paid to the government for mortgage insurance. This is what protects them from being able to get all their money and protects you from not getting the bill at the end for you or your heirs, because the house is responsible for repaying the money, not a person. It's a non-recourse loan. And that 2% that you pay for mortgage insurance protects you and your heirs. Now, you say, gee, that's about 4%. It's actually cheaper than if you sold your house and paid the realtor 6%, and you get to still live in your home. Andy and Andrea were referred to me by a financial planner. Andy was a child of the 60s and proudly showed me his ponytail. He had been sick and unable to work, and they were living on their Social Security and Andrea's part-time income. They did own their home free and clear. And one of the ways I shared how a reverse mortgage could help them was they could unlock and access their equity 3 ways: lump sum, monthly installments, or a line of credit. And when they drew on the money, it wasn't taxed because loans aren't taxed. Andy and Andrea were house rich and cash poor. They felt ashamed. They felt like they should be further along in life at this point. They had done their best, and they realized that in retirement, cash flow trumps equity on a fixed income. They chose to get monthly installments of $1,153 a month, and again, this money isn't taxed. So Andrea could stop working part-time. They could now afford their medical expenses, and it alleviated a lot of pressure on them with their budget. At the closing table, they told me the impact that this was going to have on their life. In fact, they called it a game changer. I have not met a couple yet who've been so grateful for how this program had helped them. By the way, the program's been around, regulated by HUD since 1988, and over 1 million people have taken out a reverse mortgage. AARP did a study in 2004 and found that 94% were satisfied or very satisfied. In other words, the program was doing what it set out to do: help seniors age in place, maintain their independence, not have a monthly mortgage payment, not outlive their money. Andy and Andrea realized that they couldn't control life's ups and downs. They had experienced the dot-com bust of the late 90s, the real estate correction and the Great Recession of 2008 and 9, and they took control of some of their equity to start earning interest on their behalf. I remember them saying, "This sounds too good to be true. What's the catch?" I said, well, there's really no catch, and they did experience that it actually was true. So who should not do a reverse mortgage? Well, somebody that's going to move in 18 months or less, they're probably not going to recoup the cost of the loan. If somebody's been careless or reckless with the resources, this probably isn't going to serve them well because they're just going to run through this money as well. If someone's concerned about leaving less equity to their heirs, there is going to be less equity to the heirs because equity is set aside each month because a payment isn't made. What senior homeowners love about this program is the flexibility. There's no payment required, but they can make a payment if they choose to. People often ask, what's the best time to do a reverse mortgage? And I always say, the sooner the better, as soon as you can qualify, because you want to have your equity earning interest on your behalf for the longest period of time possible. Eric and Susan were introduced to me by an estate planning attorney. In their mid-70s, the first thing out of their mouth is, we haven't saved enough for retirement, which is again very typical of most people that I meet with. I shared with them how they can earn 3 to 5% a year, guaranteed, compound interest, insured, protected from any real estate market correction on their home equity. Probably about 50% of their home equity. They mentioned how this could act as a safety net, how now they could spend more time with their grandkids, maybe go out to eat and enjoy their retirement. A few years ago, I wrote a book called The Swiss Army Knife for Retirement Cash Flow. It's 32 stories of how people have used home equity with a reverse mortgage to improve their lives in the areas of housing, cash flow, medical, dream, and legacy. It's 100 pages. It can be read in about an hour. These are actually stories of my clients. I've changed some of their names. Other clients, I've combined the stories to make a story that made sense. But I wrote it to educate people about the power of a reverse mortgage and how it can really be the key to a happily ever after retirement. I'd love to share a copy with you. If you're interested, we could meet. I'll give you a signed copy of my book and just share about how a reverse mortgage can help you maintain your independence, stay at home, remain on title, and not have a monthly mortgage payment, and enjoy your retirement. My dad and Carol's story could have been different. If they had utilized a special financing program for seniors, they could have stayed in their home. Instead, Carol lives in the downstairs apartment of their home. They could have not had the monthly mortgage payment. To this day, Carol still pays a monthly mortgage payment. So my invitation to you is to let's sit down and visit. Happy to come to your home. If you're not comfortable with that, we can meet via Zoom on the internet or talk on the phone. And explore it. See how this program has gotten safer for seniors in the last few years. A lot of people are going off of outdated information that's no longer accurate. I'd love to meet you and share how this program can help you have a happily ever after retirement.